Hello, folks, and welcome back for another episode of WIP Workshop here on RPGs Uncovered. We are back with a returning guest you might recognize from a previous episode, Michael Lowe here of Luck of Legends and Stories RPG. Luck of Legends, of course, being the your I don't really know which one you would say is
You
main,
know,
but Stories RPG is the all-inclusive, fun for all ages,
yep.
can be used for learning supplement, TTRPG storytelling material. That's what we talked
hmm
about last time with Luna Uni.
Yep.
But today we are back with Michael Lowe here to talk about Troped, previously genre, a tropey B-flick script writing movie style game, party
Yeah.
style card based game.
Yeah.
Uh, let's dive into that. There was if you've been following
Sure.
along the channel for the last couple weeks, you may have heard me talk about Giga City Guardians. There's been a
Oof.
little change of plans. Giga City Guardians is out right now. In fact,
It
I
is.
can drop that link in our chat here if we get that working. There we go. Giga City
Yeah.
Guardians is through Stories RPG and is another fun for all ages superhero storytelling game. Looks really fun. Basically like one page rule set, and then there's an associated like coloring book slash adventure module slash all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so it's really the same style as Starsworn, where you don't have to know the rules at all. You can just pick it up and sort of like as you walk through the book, you'll learn how to play. You'll run into different characters. You'll figure out your character and their power. You get to go to Signora Sun's sanctuary for the stupendous. That's where you start out. It's got a very X-Men sort of '90s Morlock storyline going. But yeah, the reason we are not actually publishing the full book is that it's half done. So Giga City Guardians, like Starsworn, it has an accompanying podcast on Stories RPG, the podcast, and the episodes connect with the storyline and the characters on the podcast at different points.
Fun.
And we were but we had sort of the first half, the first arc, and we were planning on a second arc that we would then have the game to play alongside, and we would publish while the second arc was running. The physical copy to be in homes by December. But life intervened. The voice of Firefly is currently not available. Don't worry, everything's good. But because Amanda Weldon, who is the voice of Stories podcast, which is this hugely massive online, it's the biggest kids story podcast in the world, and the longest running. So Amanda Weldon is the voice of Firefly and the voice of Stories podcast, and if she's not available, we're not running the arc
Mm-hmm.
because we want to make sure she's involved. So it's not that Giga City Guardians will never hit print; it's that we can't do the Kickstarter until Amanda's ready, and we want to make sure that if Amanda's not on board, if she's not available, we'll wait until she is. So
All
it's probably
right.
coming in the spring. Um, and I really appreciate you being so lovely and flexible and allowing me to talk about another project. And apologies to anybody if you would like to know more about Giga City Guardians. I have a million things to say. I love it, but um, but yeah, I'm also really super excited about Troped.
Yeah, well, it's great that you have another game in the works. I'm always excited to talk to indie TTRPG creators about whatever they're working on, whatever it may be. So, best of luck with Giga City Guardians when you get that started up again. When
Yep,
that does happen, you might be back on for the trifecta whenever that
I
happens.
I
Uh,
would be
we'll
honored.
we'll have you have as a consistently returning guest.
Oh wow,
Because obviously you have a lot going on. This is obviously a passion for you. So
I can't help myself.
it's lovely to see someone just consistently putting out such great ideas, whether
Oh,
it be
thank
like
you.
fun for all ages, learning style supplement style games, or this one which we're here to talk about, something entirely different from what we've talked about previously. A much more what is it, TVMA? Uh,
TVMA is how I
yep,
describe it. Yes. Um,
rated B-flick movie.
this is absolutely the case. Actually, this is interesting. This is sort of my swan song game. This
Mm,
is a game that I have been developing for more than I mean, gosh, I think I first had the idea when I was in my, I think I was like 22. So I've been making this game for over the last 20 years, and it's gone through a lot of iterations. Um, but the basic concept is real simple. I think we're the most media saturated humans, the most story inundated humans in all of human history. There's never been people who know more stories. And I think it's really strange that a lot of people think of themselves, the only thing that stops people from sitting down at a role-playing table, apart from, somebody inviting them, is often that they will say something like, well, I'm not really a creative person, or I don't really tell stories. And I often think that's a little bit like bread or music. Hear me out here.
All right.
At some point in the past, some brilliant and skeezy capitalist managed to convince everybody that bread was something difficult to make. And so you really needed to buy it. You couldn't really make it. And you should buy yeast too. Yeast is free. You just put water and flour on your windowsill and just, top it up a couple days and you got yeast. And bread is just flour and water and time. That's all it is. And I think storytelling's a little bit like that too. You look at a couple of 5-year-old kids, they can play story games with no hesitation, and they know less about storytelling and plot arcs and character tropes than we do. And somehow we sort of convince ourselves, we argue ourselves out of storytelling, which is a shame. So this is my game to create what I think of as story Legos. So there's 2 decks. One deck of 140 screen cards. And the screen cards, it still has the genre logo. I'm going with Troped because I think it's more accurate to what the game does and a little bit easier for SEO purposes. Dan, my buddy at Stories Podcast, was like, you need a different name. And I was like, okay. But
I feel that.
It's got, yeah, right? It's got all the story tropes So blown across the room. A construction montage when you need to build something real quick in a movie. How about a nose-breaking punch? Or, by the power of the MacGuffin. Occasionally in a script, you need to change things, and if you've got the MacGuffin, you can. All of these are very immediately recognizable tropes. The screen tropes are all dialogue. Come with me if you want to live is in here.
Nice.
Notice it's got a little icon there. I'll explain that. Or now we're even. You can get +1 applause if you play this after I owe you one. Because, they definitely go together. Heroic sacrifice if you want to save somebody from death, or you just want to kill your own character, which you can do. The screen cards are all dialogue or action. There's something your character does or says. Then there is the script deck. And the script deck is all what I think of as lore seeds. So characters like Glamour, the sort of the famous star, the Hollywood star. Maybe you need a new setting, so off you go to the office building because post-apocalyptic. You want to run around in the cubicles a little, get trapped in the elevator. Maybe you run into Aunt Dorothy, the adorable but really ridiculously tough old lady. These are all characters we kind of know and expect. There's also props, comedically ineffective weaponry, always a good time. You can be dressed to kill and put that on your character sheet so that you know that you're dressed to kill now. And relationships. You can have an unrequited romance. You can have the at last kiss for the 2 characters who've been, flirting with each other the whole movie long, and finally it's happening. This is a favorite, Toothless. You can play this to escape from getting a zombie bite at some point. This little guy here, that's the plot armor icon. It lets you avoid death if you need it. So all of these function like story Legos. And on your turn, all you do is you're the director on your turn. And you tell the story any way you like. You can say anything happens that you would like to have happen. The only rules are you have to play 1 trope that affects your character, and then 1 trope that kicks the action to another character at the table. So that's how turn order is decided. Now, if you do anything that somebody else doesn't like, they can immediately spend a point of applause and yell, and, or but, and then they jack the turn. It's officially their turn. Now, they have to let you play the card first and narrate before they jump in with the and or but this allows them to change the flow and change the story. So that's the basic mechanic for story Legos. But a little more structure helps people get going. So in addition to having these tropes flying around, in the middle of the play, you have 6 cards. And this is your little play mat. This is your script mat. So you have, this is a free spot for any kind of card you want, right? You can just add whatever you like there. This is the first act and this act and next act. And there's little there's little plot cards that help you find out what's going to happen in this act and also see what's coming up. And then down here, you've got setting, right? So setting and scenery, both of those get played here. So if it's a dark and stormy night and you're at the airport, okay, they both go there. Antagonists and zombies, because, zombies are a very specific kind of antagonist. But this game is designed for genre mashups in the future. So in the future, this is the first, but I've already got the superheroics deck all tricked out.
Nice.
So put superheroics together with zombies and you've got Marvel zombies. You're ready to go.
So they're going to be designed to mix and match.
Absolutely.
That's
all
fun.
the tropes fit together.
That's
and
fun.
Once you got westerns and space operas and wuxia,
yeah.
And I'm obsessive about listing up my tropes, so I have all of them all written up and ready and locked and loaded, ready to go. But this is such a massive undertaking that I sort of, for a long time, was refining this, playing it with friends. Everybody loved it, took it to a bunch of cons, couldn't figure out how to price it right. And shout out to Andrew Boyd of Pandion Games. You can find at Pandion Games. He's on Threads. He's on Twitter. He's everywhere. He made Badger and Coyote, Bonda's Grove, Substratum Protocol. He's a brilliant designer. But he was like, he took one look at this and he was like, you can print that. Hold up. And he helped me price it. He helped me figure out how to do shipping and handling. So this game is done. It's locked and loaded. And it's been done for years. I just finally have an excuse to actually market it because I can get the price down to where I can afford to print it and send it to folks and not take a hit. So super excited about that.
That is the hardest part of being an indie TTRPG creator.
100%. 100%. But yeah, so if you play your little cards on here, not only do you have this, right? So this is, the last piece, right? So antagonists and zombies. Last one is puzzles and MacGuffins. Challenges that you could overcome and, MacGuffins that might solve things in the plot. So these are sort of in the middle of play and you can see them so that they keep you all, understanding what's happening. So let's say you decide on the New Hope script. So you'll notice there's a little Act 1, A New Hope, and you'll see 2 little relationships and a zombie. That means in order to go to the next act, there have to be 2 relationships played and a zombie played. And the minute all 3 have been played, on you go to the next act. And you can put a token on there. You can put a little penny on there if you like. And so this is Act 1, After the Fall. The apocalypse is come and gone. You're what's left, scraping out a meager existence in the ruins of your world. You were all different people once. You all have pasts, past hopes, past dreams, past loves and lives. It's all you have left. And then what you get to see here is, here's the second act waiting for you. And that's in that second space. So you can see what's coming up so you can kind of plan for it. This one is, you got a challenge, a MacGuffin, and you have to have a setting change. So in the first act, you're building relationships between your characters, and then a zombie's going to mess things up, right? And that kicks you into Act 2. It all seemed so hopeless. Then maybe it's a rumor of a safe haven where you can start over. Maybe it's a hint of a cure or somebody who's immune to the virus. Whatever it is, you just may have a shot. So you found the MacGuffin and it's time to go. Now, this is the cool little design thing. Check this out. When you end this act, you shift 2 over and you flip. You shift 2 over and you flip to get Act 3. There's Act 3. So now you've got Act 3 and the end is right next to it because you only do 3 acts. This plays in about 60 to 90 minutes. So the end, 2 deaths and a puzzle. So you know it's gotta go wrong at the end of a zombie movie, right? Now, do the characters have to die? No, you just have to play the death cards. You can prevent the deaths if you want, but this game kind of incentivizes the right. It's about narrative choices. It's not about your precious characters winning. It's about telling a good story. And a great zombie flick, there's going to be some gore, and that's kind of part of the fun of it, right? You're leaning into these awful movie tropes that we all know and love because they're familiar and because they're sort of available to play. So again, Lego blocks, right? There's instructions. It'll tell you how to play through, but you can also use them your way. So the flip side of that is you also have a character arc. So example. So you get the two little cards, and these go at the top of your character mat. So here's your character mat, and this sits right in front of you. Here's where your character card goes, and there's a bunch of those in here. So example, oh, here you go, Father Doherty. I like this one. You see he's got the little character icon, so he plugs right into this spot. Being a priest during the apocalypse is a little bit like being a flight attendant on a plane that's crashing. People ask things like, why don't you do something? And why is this happening? You don't know, and it's beginning to shake your faith. So if you're Father Doherty, maybe you're Father Doherty, the hopeful romantic. You could also be a flawed hero or an unlikely hero or a haunted hero, because all of these are classics in the zombie trope, right? So you start out. Your first act is you're owner of a lonely heart. You're looking for love, right? Never worked out for you. You just never met the right person. It's the end of the world, and if you've ever needed an excuse to get serious about romance, this is it. At least folks are probably less picky. So, and then you've got number 2 coming up. The second piece of your arc, the end is my beginning. This is when you find your first romance. And then the last scene, just like the last scene in the plot, always has a choice, how you want to end things. So in this one, love is the answer. Starts when the lovers overcome whatever opposes their love. You may die together, or one may die for the other. Or maybe, just maybe, you two crazy kids will work it out. So this is the character arc that you play along. And then you got plenty of space for more characters. You can play extras on your thing. And this is the cool thing. If you kill off your main character and you got an extra hanging out, sweet. Flip your script and use the extra. Now the extra's a main character and you just keep playing. Because obviously, zombie flicks, they're going to die. It's okay. And you'll notice there's room for extras. This is like a performance. So if you've got a ridiculous accent or there's a couple of other good ones, a relationship, and then props. Any kind of props that you want to attach to your character. And then you got a little applause tracker, so you can track your applause. You can always get more by saying, after you play anything, and during your turn, if you do anything, you narrate the story, and everyone reacts, whether it's a laugh or a ooh or whatever, you get to stop and be like, applause. And if everybody, okay, then you get an extra point.
And that's your sort of scoring metric for when the game finishes.
No, the scoring metric is purely through the script cards and playing those icons. So when you get to the very end, so example, here's the end of A New Hope. So you finish Act 3 of A New Hope against all odds. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Things have gotten bad, real bad. Apocalypse Plus with cheese, fries, and an extra large shake. If desperation were a cologne, you would all reek right now. So, got to kill 2 people off and have some kind of terrible problem, right? When you flip and you get the end, there we go. A new beginning or the final curtain. So you play through those 3 icons. Now it's time to wrap the script up. Whoever plays that final card that has the last icon you needed to flip the script, they get to narrate the end, and then everybody goes around and gets to give their character's ending. So either you make it or you didn't. And there's, it gives you a little, so you found the solution you were all searching for. It's a new beginning for all of you, for all of humanity too, or you didn't. You're staring death in the eye, striving against the inevitable. Die in the most spectacular, screen-worthy way you can. That's the TPK option, right? The key is there's no scoring metric. This is collaborative. But at the end, if you're the kind of people who really love, the concept of winning, what you can do is have the award show. So the rules for the award show are you can nominate anyone but yourself, and you have to do it out loud. You say, I nominate so-and-so for, and the awards are Action Star, Drama Monarch, and the third is Comic Relief. And then there's always Best Director if you think somebody really took the plot in a cool direction. And everybody gets to vote. You can all argue about who wins. You can give your acceptance speeches. But the bottom line is it's about the story. And the most interesting thing about this game is I think a lot of people don't understand how to play a game that doesn't involve winning. But I have never had that problem with this game because the tropes themselves are so immediate, and the real push and pull of the game and the sort of the tactics and the strategy and the fun of it is when people are interrupting each other and being like, oh, heck no, you're not giving me a relationship with the toothless zombie, but, and then throw down a trope card and take the entire story in a new direction.
Yeah, it's not so much trying to overpower, you know, the other storytellers. It is a very much like a lot of the TTRPGs I play on this channel. It's a very collaborative experience. That I mean the point, the win metric of the game is just telling the best collaborative experience.
Well, and people get really goofy with it and they love it. Like at the end, people are like, that was awesome. Because it's these scripts are very familiar. They're all very familiar zombie apocalypse arcs. But the surprise is all seeing what, you know, people, if you ask somebody, tell me a zombie apocalypse story, they wouldn't really give you any details that made it really stick. They'd be kind of stuck, right? They'd be like, okay, well, it's going to be a bunch of normal people, and they'd give you the summary, right? The overview. The trick to the story Legos, so there are 140 unique script cards. Every single one of these tropes is different. There's 140 unique screen cards. Every single one of these cards is different. There are 4 different plot arcs, and there are 4 different character arcs. So in total, this game is 308 cards. It's almost impossible not to get a different movie every time. And very unique, weird ones. You know, okay, we're going into the sewers. Okay, I got to create a reason for us to go into the sewers because I got the into the sewers card. And, you know, I got a MacGuffin. What's the MacGuffin this time? Is it the Necronomicon? Is it, you know, and there's a little list of some MacGuffin ideas. That, you know, there's the living MacGuffin card. And you're like, okay, somebody's the living MacGuffin. Why are they the living MacGuffin? Who are they? And what is their power that's going to, you know, flip the script for everyone? So it's a really cool, full, fun party game way. It feels like Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples when you're playing it because people are throwing things on the table and shouting. And, you know, when somebody narrates, they'll be, ooh. Yeah.
What I'm hearing is it's a lot like Cards Against Humanity's Apples to Apples, but instead of it just being, you know, constant rebuttal, here's my card, well, here's my card, back and forth. They're actual storytelling prompts that do require a little bit of input and exchange between the players, which I think is great because it adds a sort of deck, not necessarily deck building, but card-based sort of back and forth that you're used to in these sort of pub style games, but also incorporates, as you said, the art of storytelling.
Well, yeah, and so one of the rules that we like to work with is, you know, it is kind of deck building, but you can discard and redraw at any time as many cards as you want. And part
because
of the
it's about telling the best story. It's not about
exactly
winning.
if you're stuck and you're looking at all your tropes and you're like, I don't like these, I don't know how they work. Great, ditch them.
Awesome.
These cards actually have been trimmed down. Originally, this was a deck of over 600 cards. And we played it and played it and played it. I played it with everybody who would sit still, and all the cards that people didn't automatically look at and go, ooh, yeah, and throw it on the table, they're out of the deck. So these are cards that they feel very automatic. I have never had anybody play this game and not pull out a card, laugh a little, and then throw it on the table because they immediately, it makes, you know, and this is the example I always use to explain why I think tropes are such a great way to invite people to storytelling. I always say, look, I know, I'm going to say this, every single person who's listening will know. Somebody walks into a bar through a pair of swinging doors. What happens? Immediately the music stops and everybody looks at them. You know what's going to happen. If the bar has a plate glass window,
someone's going through it.
Somebody's going to go through it. If there's a chase scene and there's a cart on the side of the road,
cabbages everywhere.
You just know these things. We're all we bleed story, and then we imagine that we can't create them, which seems a shame. But yeah, these also work. This is my other little trick here. This is also a tabletop supplement for any game. So what I do is, when I'm playing a game, I'll hand all my players 5 tropes. I'll say draw 5. And then if you're playing something like D&D, all right, if you can play one of these tropes, the temporary dialogue tropes or action tropes, I'll give you advantage for the role you made it, but it has to work. But if it's working, take advantage on that roll. But you only get 5 for this session, or 4 or 3, depends on how stingy you want to be. And then if you give them a bunch of scene cards, for example, maybe so omnicidal can be an antagonist, but it can also be a trait. You can be omnicidal and be a player, right? Or you could be a ninja. Or if you play a relationship and you have a friendly rivalry, you can give these out as rewards and say, all right, you clearly have a friendly rivalry with so-and-so's character. I'm going to put this right here. If either of you is making a roll and you can explain why your friendly rivalry would help, I'll give you a +1 to the roll. PBTA, all of these are just a +1. Easy peasy. If it's forged in the dark, add a die. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but the cool thing is these tropes add to whatever story game you're playing and allow you to mess around and have these lovely, because the best thing is when you fit the trope to the moment, there's this super victory moment where you're like, and that's when, and you lay it down and everybody's like, oh, because it's the perfect trope for the moment and you built up to it. And it gives people who struggle with story a little bit of shape. It's like, okay, I know what I'm playing up to and I know what to play into. So especially for folks who struggle a little more with story and have those moments where they're like, I'm not improving off the top of my head. I don't really know what to, they're like, I got something, boom. And they know what to do.
Yeah, that sounds like a great supplement for pretty much any collaborative storytelling game out there, TTRPGs as they're called. But I tend to think of them just as collaborative storytelling games.
Story games. That I'm with you, man.
Yeah,
100%.
and I've with what I do with my focus on teaching games to new players, obviously I play with a lot of people who have not played a particular game before, not played any particular game before. This might be their first like storytelling experience outside of that one night at camp they told a strange story around a fire. So having this deck-based, card-based prompts that can just be thrown out and exchanged and tossed around, I think is a great way to introduce and teach. As you were saying, use all of these tropes to get people into the rhythm of telling a story. Because from what I've seen in my own experience, once they get started, they just keep going, but it can be difficult to get that initial
100%.
hook into them. So having these prompts to inspire their imagination, I think sounds like a great way to really help promote and teach. It's something I know we're both passionate about. Teach new ways of playing and communicating with each other.
Well, that's I was talking about this with a couple of friends just today, actually. This was a back and forth with a couple designers I love. If you know the Drakes, they've released so many amazing supplements, and I think I was chatting with RP Deshays also about this, but we were talking about the concept of sort of how you get, like, whether complexity really creates more buy-in for a game. Because complexity can create secondary content. You have to sort of min-max and optimize to figure out how the rules work. And one thing
analysis paralysis. If it's too complex, if there's too many working pieces, some people will just shut down. I love games that are based on these, quick 1-2 sentence prompts.
And that's exactly it. I think so this one, I think this has the complexity only because it's got lots of cards. But it's very familiar. And I was also thinking about settings. Fantasy settings are only sort of beginning to be widely understood. They're becoming more, I think Game of Thrones did a lot to make fantasy a little more approachable. I mean, we all know Lord of the Rings, but like that's the only touch point for a lot of folks. Whereas you look at the volume of movies out there in particular genres, you know exactly what happens in a zombie movie because you've seen 40 million hours of it. You've seen Romero, you've seen Sam Raimi, you've seen all of The Walking Dead. Like, people know their zombie flicks and they know their zombie tropes, and you know what's going to happen next. And that intuitive, that learned understanding, for me, like, I think of Legos as being the ultimate game. And I want to explain that. They're intuitive. You don't have to say anything. You can dump a pile of Legos in front of anybody, anywhere on the planet, and they will pick them up and figure out how to put them together and use them to make their own game. They will create an experience and an interaction using them. That's what I wanted with these cards. And ultimately, the mats and the plot and the character arc, yes. Okay, wait. Okay.
I've had this since I was like 8 years old.
You want to see how nerdy I am? This is the other game that maybe I will be promoing in the spring. Rich of Hatchling Games and I are going to be working on this one. So I've been making. If you, this one I designed it. I designed it myself. It actually unfolds. There are these little hinges, and it can turn into a speeder. I'm super nerdy about Legos.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm going to be making a Lego mini sports game where you have to blow pieces off the other guy's tower, and then like you to score to get the, anyway. Very
always
excited
new
about
projects down the line.
I have too many ideas.
I got you.
But the thing is, Legos come they do come with instructions, so you can build the kit. But they're also intuitive, and those single blocks on their own can allow you to create and recreate and innovate on your own. And that's really what I'm most interested in doing. And things like D&D, to me, they're wonderful. And if you're deep in it and you're inviting new people, that's amazing. But a lot of people stop at the door because they seem massively complex, and there's not necessarily a framework. Card games are easy to understand. People have a framework. It's a board game. It's an improv-y, yelling things out game. Everybody's played an Apples to Apples or Cards Against Humanity, and everybody's seen a zombie movie. And I think what I'm really excited about is if I can get, so all I need 200 people. If I can get 200 people on the Kickstarter, I will be able to release this game. And what I would love to do is, I have so many others. I have an entire anime deck that's all statted out with all the scripts. I had a very interesting argument with my film nerd friend who helped me with this project. He actually recorded the video that you can see on the site. So the site is tropedgame.com.
Yep.
And there's a play video there. Yeah. So tropedgame.com, you can check it out. You can sign up for the Kickstarter, but the thing is, if I can get 200 people and I can release the first deck, I have so many more decks that I would love to print. And the idea of the emergent play possible with mashups where you're like, okay, superpowers plus space opera. Boom.
Yeah. You need any help with the sci-fi trope? I got you.
You know me. I love my sci-fi. I mean, Luna Uni. I'm deep in it.
Oh, of course.
I've put these stickers on everything now. I'm like obsessive.
Love it.
That's, by the way, my friend Mickey, pineberrypaper.com. If you have the chance, check out her stuff. She's incredible. She makes pins. She does stickers. She has all this journaling stuff, but she's my merch maven. So
nice.
I'm super stoked to every time I get a package from her, I'm like, ooh. I have like glasses with Luna Uni merch logo on it now.
Awesome.
I'm deep in my own nerd. But yeah, I'm super excited for this to be more than just a one-off. I think this, as a set of tools, but also as a standalone game, it's just kind of a no-brainer. Like, I wish I'd had this when I was in college.
Yeah.
If I had had this game in college, we would have been playing this every week because it would have been fun. And we would have bought every new supplement and thrown it on the table and made goofy scripts and talked about it for years later. So yeah, and it's quick to play. It's zero prep, and it gets you collaborating without a single storyteller, right? Without somebody having to be the prep person who does all this labor creating the thing. So if you need a pickup game, somebody needs a week off and they're like, yeah, I don't really want to run this week, y'all. I'm skint. then grab this thing out and play a quick round, and it gets
Hmm.
inspiring and it gets fun and it gets random real quick.
Yeah, I know I have I had a lot of college friends that I tried to get into back then. Of course, D&D was pretty much
Yep.
the only one out there, at least for mainstream. Uh, there were
I
a lot
played a
of
lot of Palladium. I will admit I played a lot of TMNT and other
mm.
Strangenesses and Rifts back in the day.
Oh, well, I'm a
A little bit of
Shadowrun
White
guy
Wolf,
myself.
sprinkling of
Yeah,
dude, I played I loved
yeah,
Shadowrun.
yeah.
Loved it. My
But
Fizzad was one of my favorite characters ever.
hmm I know a lot of their biggest, well, it sounds fun, but I'm
Mm.
not sure about it, is, they don't want to spend 6 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is. They
Nope.
don't want to worry about, well, I need these dice and we need tokens and I don't want to have to learn the rules. So
Yep.
having a game like this that, it's all in one box, you have these cards that have prompts
Whip
on
it
them, but
out.
it's not just here's my card, here's my card. It's like
Yep.
the best aspects of collaborative storytelling through TTRPGs, but distilled down into something that is very easily accessible and something that can
Yep.
wrap up a full story in, as you said, somewhere around an hour or so.
Yeah, it usually plays in an hour.
Best of both
It
worlds.
only plays to an hour and a half when people are like so into the scenes they don't want them to end,
Hmm.
and they're literally discarding the cards that have the right icon for moving to the next act because they're
Right.
like, I'm not ready. We haven't completed our act yet, and like that's the only time it stretches.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's that's always been a thing for me, especially so this started when I was sort of not around a lot of other role players, and I started being like, okay, I got to build something because I need to tell stories with my friends
Yeah.
because that's a way of connecting with people that I value deeply. And I feel like the experiences you have creating storylines with other people, they connect you in a way that a lot of other things don't.
Yeah.
You learn things about them. You learn their sense of humor. You learn their values. You learn all these things,
And
right?
it's a shared
And you get
experience that you can bond over and bond through, even if it's entirely in your imagination.
everybody who has played a TTRPG knows that the stories that you tell afterwards about those moments with your friends,
Hmm.
they're incredibly powerful, and you
Hmm.
will talk about them for years later because they're a touchstone. You really went through something.
Yeah, they're
Um,
fictional stories, but they're
yeah,
real experiences to the people
that's
who have them.
that's key. I
Hmm.
don't know, as an English teacher and also as a person who teaches with games and a game designer,
Hmm.
I always say like that's the incredible power of games is that games literally can give you moments of vulnerability with other people that feel real where
Hmm.
they can reach out and help you and you can connect in this very real way. You have these moments of emotional intensity that are shared. And, I don't mean that in a sort of like, it doesn't have to be intense way. By
Hmm.
the way, there is a cut card so that if there's anything you don't want to have
Excellent.
happen, you always can touch the cut card and just say cut.
I
And
love
everybody's like, yep,
built-in
cut,
safety
move
tools.
on.
Love it.
You have to have it. You
Yeah.
have to have it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, for me, I think it's a very, it's a very primal way to build and sustain community.
Exactly. I
And
was
that's
just gonna
why
say that.
so that's why folks who love games, they're always like, play a game with me. Cause
Hmm.
like, that's the way we're going to, and people, I think it's an experience that once people have had it and they've been able to fall into it, it's impossible to not enjoy it
Hmm.
and crave it later. So yeah, the goal here was to create something that was for all these people who had never played a game before, really easy and intuitive to pick up, but would lead to that communal sense of storytelling. And then also, I really wanted a game where you weren't being precious about your characters.
Right.
You were looking to kill your characters. Like sometimes you're like, ooh, I want
Yep.
to sacrifice myself here. I'm going to kill my character off, and then I'm going to play the little kid that we just met, and I'm going to
Hmm.
flip the script. I'm going to be Spunky the Punk. Spunky the
Turn
Punk is one of
the
my favorite.
turn the bombastic theatrics all the way up to 11.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean there's so many great, there's so many great cards that allow you, the dog. If you get the
Of
dog, so
course.
many people once they get the animal, they're like, I'm going to be the animal. I'm killing my human off.
Yep.
Or, somebody else will be like, oh, I'm going to kill your dog and I'm going to make you feel so miserable about it because that'll give you that tragic moment you need to now fight the big bad. And, and then there's a big argument about like, wait. I don't want to kill the dog. And
Hmm.
of course, if people don't, people will cut it if they want. But sometimes they're like, for the story though, you're right. That'd be
Yeah.
great. like I can play my Berserker Tears card
Those are
and
the
go,
best moments of collaborative
yeah.
storytelling when you know you're taking a hit personally for something, but it's gonna make the continued experience so much better.
Well, and that's the thing is I wanted it to be playful. You know,
Hmm.
I wanted you to be able to say like, yeah, you know what? I'm definitely killing off this character because I think it's time. They need to die. It's a zombie movie. And I wanted it to be about that communal sense of story. Like when you do a thing, most of the people who get applause, yeah, it's for those individual character performances. But boy, when you slam down a new antagonist or you reveal the MacGuffin or you're like, we go crashing through the window and into, and you throw down a new setting card and everybody's like, because they get it, they
Hmm.
feel it. Um, you get that vibe that you get from a great game, and it happens quicker and easier than most other story games I've ever played. So yeah, this is I think you can tell I'm a little stoked about it, but it's genuinely as a designer, it's been my swan song.
Hmm.
I've poured so many hours of playtesting. I've run this at so many different cons. I've gotten player feedback. I've fully edited and produced this thing, I think 4 times now. And with
Mm.
the hundreds of cards, that meant every single card had to
Yep.
get rebuilt in its
Yep.
own individual file from the ground up. So a lot of love and obsessive design nerdiness went into this thing, and I'm
Hmm.
very proud of it.
Well, it clearly shows. I love having you on to talk about these things. You're obviously very passionate about it. You put a lot of work into it. It is great to see. Uh, yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
we covered. I mean, that's another great thing
Yeah.
about having you on. Another teacher, another somebody who is used to speaking to people about very specific things. I don't have to prompt you at all. I could just sit here and listen to you tell me about the game. It's
I'm
great.
terrible. You could always just interrupt me and be like, Michael, say less.
Oh
I
no.
need to get in here sideways.
No,
Thank you
if
for
you
your
can
patience.
preempt my questions, I don't even need to ask them.
Oh, well, yeah,
Uh,
like I said, this is one of those ones that I went so far down the rabbit hole, and it's
mhm.
just super exciting to think that I'm gonna get to release it into the world. I
Yeah,
got really amped when Andrew Boyd of Pandion Games was like, no, 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 no. You can get your print cost and shipping costs down to the point where you will actually be able to produce this game. Because that's the
nice.
hard thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing when you have a PDF, even books are reasonably priced, and some of the shipping, you can pull it off. But card games, especially a big card game, you
Hmm.
know, Button Shy does 8 card games, and some of the design that goes into those, it's so genius because they're maximizing what you can do with so very little space,
Hmm.
and all these clever design tricks to make them flippable and movable and shiftable. um but this is a game that required and relied on having a library of tropes, and that's why I really couldn't figure out a way to make it any other way. I was
Hmm.
like, no, 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 it has to be like this. Like, I can't do it. I even played with, I made a 1 page version, which I created what I call trope tents. And the trope tents are literally just the icon. So here's the suit, right? This is the jerky business guy or girl or person, jerky business person who is always a backstabber
Mm.
in the zombie. They're always awful. Um, but it'll have just the icon and then the name. And so the tropes are all one line. And I had to cut out some of the tropes that are great if they couldn't be like, here's an extra large zombie. Okay, we know what that is. Um, but all the tropes that couldn't be explained just by that one line had to get cut. And it was designed to be printout, and you could fold them and make these little tiny trope tents that would
Mm.
sit on your table. And then you could set the trope tents, stack them on top of each other. So new setting, you would drop the
Interesting.
setting on top. And it was really fun to do, but I was like, it's not going to be as innately and inherently
Hmm.
fun as breaking out the cards. These
Hmm.
things are small and they don't allow you to have a little bit more, because just a little bit of extra like verbiage
Hmm.
helps so much on these cards
Hmm.
to get people playing them in an intuitive way.
And everyone just likes having a whole stack of cards in their hand. It's
They're
just a
super
wonderful
fun.
tactile experience.
I have to say, when I first got my first printed copy, I was just like, oh,
Hmm.
like
Yep, that new
these are very
card
nice.
smell.
Oh
Yep.
man, these are great though. I use them in all my games, so
Hmm.
it's great to know that they're going to be at other people's tables
Yeah.
soon.
Well, let's talk about that. We've talked
Yeah.
about you know, the all of the different cards. We talked a bit about the rules. The setting and tropes are all, of course,
Yep.
very accessible to everybody. Let's talk about, you know, where this is going and how it's going to get to everybody's table. So
So
you said you were looking to kickstart. You're looking for about 200 people or so on the
if
notify
I
list.
had if I had 200 people tomorrow, I would fire up the Kickstarter.
All right.
Honestly, when I found out about the pricing, I was like, wow, I could do this for November. And then I realized I had no marketing.
Right.
I was like, okay, I have to get the word out and I have to have a lot of people. And there's nothing more disappointing than launching an amazing product. And just because you didn't have the necessary community built around it, it doesn't go into production.
Yep.
And I was like, I could produce this and I could have it in people's houses by Christmas. And I was like, nope, can't do it because I need lead up.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, I think it's probably going to be 2 to 3 months
Mm-hmm.
of build, and I'm going to try to get the word out as best I can on whatever shows I can, and pods and all the
Mm-hmm.
different ways. Post about it on social media. I'm going to play a how-to video. The video on the site is like a bunch of us playing the game. I'm going to do a little how-to video, which is just hands and flipping cards and showing you how it works. Pretty simple and pretty straightforward, but yeah, I'm really ready to go on this. If I had the audience already, I would launch it tomorrow.
Nice. Nice.
The site's up. You can see everything you need to know about it. Again, that's Troped Game, TROPED game.com. And if you sign up there and I get 200 people within a week, I'm ready.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I have the link dropped in chat for anyone following along right now. If you're watching this on the VOD, you can scroll down to the description. I'll have that right there. There's
Right
a
on.
nice notify on launch tab on the website there that you can sign up for. And I'm hoping we can get that. You can build up that community real
I'm
quickly.
not worried about 200 people. I'm really worried about like just more, like I want to wait until it's ready.
Right.
And I'm ready to launch it and I'm like, come on. This is a lot of people would love this game. And so getting the word out is the only thing in the way.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much for helping me get the word out.
Yeah. So once you get the hype up, once you get the Kickstarter going, do you have I'm, I don't want anyone to hold you to this. Do you have an estimated like how much this is going to cost?
Yeah, it's going to be about $40 for the entire game, which to me is ridiculous for a 308 card game with game mats along with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like super super stoked to be able to use that as a price. I'm like, this is actually feasible. And so and if I have more, I could possibly crank that down a bit. It's a lot of cards. That's
Mm-hmm.
the thing. It's a big game. But it's a big game that you can also fit in your bag and like take anywhere
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
plays in no time at all. So so yeah, and then yeah, hopefully if folks love it, then I get the excuse to release all the others that have been lurking in my
Right.
hard drive for years. And that are way more fun cuz you get to play them together. I really love the mashups. The mashups are where it's at for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
everybody can play a straight zombie flick, but dude, give
Oh
me
yeah.
Wuxia zombies any day.
Put those in a
I
space
want
station.
Wuxia zombies. Yeah,
Yep.
amen. Let's do space opera zombies. Let's go.
There you
Yeah.
go. Awesome. Well, we are coming up to the time we have tonight, but this was a great conversation. I really hope that we can get the hype built up for this because it sounds like a great game to me. I'd love to see it actually come to print. So I'm gonna help boost this. We'll have it on.
Thank you.
This will be available on Twitch VOD for a few weeks, and of course it will be on YouTube. I'll get that to you as soon as I
Yay.
can. And yeah, we'll talk about. We'll talk about a game or something in the future.
Hey, listen, I put this on tabletop, virtual tabletop, and played it with some folks.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
not it doesn't quite work as well as you want it to because there's so many cards involved and you just want to
Mm-hmm.
throw them everywhere that like it's a little more staid because you have to be like, wait, I'm going to touch this thing and I'm going to
Yeah.
move it over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more precious on
Mm-hmm.
virtual tabletop. And this is really an in-person game.
Yeah.
But I will play this with anybody anytime.
All
So don't
right.
tempt me.
Well, we'll talk. We'll talk. All right.
Right on.
Well, this has and always is a great time having you on.
Thank
I
you.
flipped the script on me a bit for this particular episode, but I'm glad you did so because this sounds
Oh,
like a fantastic game. I'm looking forward to
yay.
it. Yeah, so not currently crowdfunding. This is one of the few episodes of WIP Workshop where there's not actually really anything for you to latch onto except for the Notify page. Go check out that link, tropedgame.com, sign up for the Notify on launch. Then, of course, there'll be a Kickstarter, and eventually, hopefully, when that gets fulfilled, we'll have a great new card game to add to all of our shelves.
Kickstarter page is ready to I'm ready to hit the publish and the get ready button as soon as I get those folks. So really this is
Awesome.
all up to building a little bit of momentum. Thank
All
you so
right.
much for help.
Well, there you have it, folks. Go tell your friends, go tell your family, go tell everybody you can about this. Thank you, Michael, for another great
Thank
conversation.
you.
Hopefully, we'll have you on for all of these other fantastic
Oh
games you have
wow.
in your mind.
I have too many.
Right. And thank you, everyone on the other side of this screen here, for watching along. Go check out the website. Look forward to the game. Go check out everything else Michael does on Luck of Legends and Stories RPG if you want to look into things that are
Both of
fun
those
for
are
all ages.
.com.
Yep.
Yep.
We'll have those links down below. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. As always, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, keep having fun, keep checking back here at RPGs Uncovered for more WIP Workshop interviews. Good night and happy time zone, folks.